So you decided that this is the year that you lock in, break the cycle, and get in the best shape of your life. And a big part about getting to your dream physique is lifting weights. So here is the very first workout I would personally do if I was just starting out. This is the best beginner's upper body workout at Planet Fitness. No barbells required, only Planet Fitness equipment. Let's get to it. Now, like before, I want you to know that there are no one-size-fit-all routines. Ultimately, you might find that you have the mobility for some of these exercises, but not all of them. Maybe you're working with limited equipment, your Planet Fitness doesn't have access to the same equipment that I do. All good, because ultimately I want this to be a starting point on your journey. So I'm gonna keep it relatively simple and overarching. Most of these exercises are gonna be compound movements. Now, compound movements are multi-joint movements. So think about bench press, rows. Now, of course, we're not gonna be working with barbells since we're at Planet Fitness, but that is completely fine. You can still have an amazing workout without any of that, as you will soon see. Now, secondly, expect this workout to last roughly 1 hour long. And lastly, at this time of year, the gym might be pretty busy, so I'm gonna give you alternatives to the main exercises that I'm recommending here. Just so if you don't have access to a certain piece of equipment or machine, all good. I'm gonna give you a lot of options. All right, so we're about to get started. Now, keep in mind, I'm not gonna be covering warm-ups. However, the best warm-up of them all is simply taking 2 to 3 warm-up sets of 1 to 5 reps of whatever exercise you're gonna be doing, and slowly scaling up in weight as you get further and further into your warm-up sets, while decreasing the amount of reps as you get further into the warm-up sets. So let's get into the first exercise. All right, so first exercise we're gonna be starting with is 2 sets of 5 to 10 reps with an incline dumbbell bench press for the chest, triceps, and front delt. Now, ultimately, I chose an incline press over a flat one for the more comfortable arm path in general. Now, first off, we gotta set up the incline, and I recommend setting it to roughly 15 to 45 degrees, or 1 to 3 notches from flat. Now, I personally recommend 2, which is roughly 30 degrees. Now, to get the dumbbells up, rest the dumbbells on your knees like so, and then you wanna kick back one by one to get the dumbbells up. That's gonna look like this. Now, once you're in this position, ideally you wanna be pressing with a little bit of a tucked elbow flare, meaning you're pressing more like this rather than purely all the way out like here. So naturally, instead of pressing with the dumbbells facing out like this, it should be turned diagonally a little bit like here, so that the dumbbells are facing the same path as your elbow. And then if you tend to feel a little bit wobbly when you're pressing, you want to press your shoulder blades down to stabilize the shoulder joint. Let me show you how that looks without my pump cover. Now let me actually demonstrate the difference. Here's me pressing without really stabilizing my shoulder joint. And here's me pressing while also depressing my shoulder blades down. See the difference? Second one's way more stable. Now, this might take you some time to fully understand, but a good mental cue I like to use is known as up, back, down. Now, that stands for shrugging up, retracting back, and depressing down. Now, this position that you end up being in, this is roughly where you should be when you're actually pressing to stabilize the shoulder joint. Now, remember when you're pressing to slow the descent down, aiming for a 1 to 2 second eccentric. And if you don't have access to dumbbells, any sort of Smith machine or machine press that you might find at Planet Fitness with an incline will suffice. Let's move on to the second exercise. Not gonna lie, it's a little bit tough to record here, especially since I don't really want anyone to be in the back of the shot or anything. So what we're actually gonna do is head back to another gym. I'm gonna take a note of all the machines that Planet Fitness has and basically do the equivalent at that other gym. I'm gonna make sure I'm still gonna be using Planet Fitness available equipment. So at the end of the day, we're gonna get the same effect. Let's go. All right, second exercise we're getting to is gonna be 2 sets of 5 to 10 reps of a wide grip lat pull down. You wanna make sure you're taking a grip outside shoulder width. So if you're taking too narrow a grip and you're feeling in your arms, well, you definitely should be widening that grip. Now, the key thing to actually filling your lats is you want to focus on getting your elbow to touch the side of your body. Now, having a slight lean when you're pulling is natural. You don't have to think about being completely upright like this. Instead, you can focus on driving your elbows down and aiming to have the bar touch roughly like upper chest area. That will essentially suffice. As always, aim to have a 1 to 2 second eccentric on the way back up, and that's pretty much a lat pull down. Now, admittedly, this machine tends to be a little bit of a hot commodity, so if you don't have access to a cable lat pull down, the diverging pull down could be another great option. The idea here is as long as you're doing some sort of vertical pull with your arms further away from your body, you're gonna be biasing more of the lats. Good luck. All right, so now before we get into the next exercise, if you want, instead of just a workout, a whole workout routine, then I highly recommend you apply my exclusive OneOne Fitness coaching program. Now, ultimately, I think the main value of a goal irregardless of even the workout routine or whatever you get, is actually just providing you guidance so that you can get to your goals in a more efficient manner. And that is exactly what I aim to do. That means a customized workout routine that actually fits your schedule. Nutrition and advice for whatever dieting goals you might have. The ability to have pretty much all your questions answered. And ultimately, let's be real, someone to actually keep you accountable on your fitness goals. So if you're actually serious about getting your fitness goals in 2025, I highly recommend you apply in the link in the description. I highly recommend you get in as soon as possible before New Year's because demand's gonna be crazy there. I can't really guarantee a spot then. But with that said, let's get back to the workout. Now, exercise number 3 is gonna be 2 sets of 6 to 12 reps of a cable lateral raise done unilaterally, meaning single arm. Well, let me take my pump cover off for this demonstration. Now, these side delts in general are one of the more difficult muscles to train, not because they're particularly complex, but a lot of people find it very unnatural to not involve nearby muscle groups when they're doing exercises that are considered side delt exercises. In my opinion, the best way to train these side delts if you tend to struggle feeling them is with a lengthened focused side delt exercise, such as a single arm cable lateral raise. The focus of the exercise, so where peak resistance would be in the range of motion, is actually going to be down here in the part of the range of motion that you're less likely to cheat on. So now that we understand why we're doing a lengthened focused cable lateral raise, let me show you how to set up. Now, the most important part in my opinion, take a wider stance, plant your feet down, have your arm come down, and make sure the cable height is roughly at hand height. All right, so now we're here. Now, in order to kind of minimize trap involvement on this, instead of thinking about bringing the cables up, where you're probably gonna be more likely to shrug, you actually want to focus on just pointing your finger outward, like you're drawing a snow angle and trying to reach as far out as possible. Now, if you focus on pointing outward, you're much less likely to have a lot of trap involvement when you're doing this exercise. And considering that it's a lengthened focus lateral raise, it's gonna be easier for you not to shrug in this more shortened part up here as well. Just make sure you're aiming to have a 1 to 2 second eccentric on the way down. You don't want to be like cheating and then you're just pumping it out like here. Now, similar to the lat pull down, chances are at Planet Fitness, the cable is probably going to be a hot commodity. So the alternative I'd recommend is going to be a chest supported dumbbell lateral raise. Now, while this is a short and focused exercise, not going to be as length and focused as this, it probably is the most stable variation of a lateral raise you can do. And you're definitely not going to be cheating on that exercise. Now, exercise number 4 is going to be 2 sets of 5 to 10 reps of a chest supported dumbbell row, ideally biasing the mid back and rear delts. Now, before we even begin this exercise, we got to set up the bench. A very common question I get is what incline to actually set up to. So what I recommend is you want to set the incline as low as possible without having your arms touch the ground, or more importantly, the dumbbell. So this will be too low, but this should be just right. Now, to set up for this exercise, I recommend facing the bench, pop the dumbbells on your knees like you were doing earlier with the incline dumbbell bench press. And then from here, you simply just plop yourself onto the bench. This is probably the most comfortable setup that you can have. Now, the next thing you want to do is make sure you're taking a pronated grip. So you want the dumbbells facing each other like this. Pretend instead of dumbbells, you're working with a barbell. That is the grip you should be taking. And then the last thing you want to do before you go for your rep is take a deep breath and brace your core. And now think about getting your elbows back to the side of your body while also squeezing your shoulder blades together. That's gonna look like this. And then on the eccentric, allow your shoulder blades to spread back apart before going in for your next rep. Once more, squeezing these shoulder blades. And like always, aim for a 1 to 2 second tempo on the eccentric. Now, if you don't have access to a bench or dumbbells, the alternative I personally recommend would be the reverse pec deck fly. They should have that at Planet Fitness. I checked, I made sure to check.
Also, real quick, folks, if you're looking for some high quality gym wear, I highly recommend you check out Able and use code PATH at checkout for 10% off.
Well, now moving on to exercise 5 and 6 is going to be 2 sets of a single arm tricep push down, superset with 2 sets of a single arm Bayesian cable curl. Now, if you're not familiar with supersets, or antagonistic supersets for that matter, this is essentially when you string in 2 exercises back to back into one giant set. So how it works is you do exercise number 1 and then exercise number 2 right after, without any rest in between. And then what makes a superset antagonistic is that the muscles involved in exercise 1 and 2 are mutually exclusive, meaning you're not training the same muscle group in exercise 1 as you are in exercise number 2. Now, for the single arm tricep push down, there's a lot of different variations you can do. You can do the crossbody style, you can do one where you're leaning over the bar, you can do one Carter extension style. Now, I personally prefer doing a crossbody the most. However, the most simple way to do it is probably leaning over one, where you pretty much mimic the movement pattern of a traditional rope tricep push down with your arms at your side, but of course you're doing it one arm at a time. Now, whichever variation you end up going with, the key thing to remember if you want to avoid shoulder pain is to keep your shoulder in a neutral position when you're doing the exercises. That is, you don't want to be internally rotated and have your elbows flared out or your arms kind of crossing each other. You want to make sure that your arms are facing forward, kind of like you're like Mr. Roboto. And then the second thing you want to be mindful of to make sure that you're actually isolating the triceps is you want to avoid having your shoulders come forward like this. Now, easiest way to do this is really just think about keeping your arm at the side of your body. Pretend that moving at your shoulders is pretty much impossible and you're just like a action figure that can only do this. And then if you find that you're losing your grip mid-set, I highly recommend you take a hook grip. This is where instead of just grabbing the cables directly, you start by wrapping your thumb around the cable and then you wrap the remaining fingers around your thumb. And of course, as always, aim to have a 1 to 2 second eccentric on the way back up. And that's gonna be our tricep exercise for the day, but we're not done because we gotta work on the other arm as well. But then also after that, we gotta do the superset, remember? So the cables are gonna be up here. You wanna set it down for the Bayesian cable curl. So what we're gonna do is attach a D handle, set the cables to roughly around hand height, so a little bit higher than here. This should be good. And what we're gonna do is facing away from the cables, we're gonna take 2 steps forward and perform the cable curl from here. If you find that you're getting shoulder pain while doing this, I actually recommend you pivot towards the working arm a little bit, so face this way. And if you do the cable curl from this position, it should feel a little bit more ergonomic on your shoulder. And then now that we have the setup, focus purely on bending and straightening your elbow. You shouldn't be moving at the shoulder joint at all. Your arms should still be behind your body. And ideally, you wanna avoid curling your wrist in like this. You wanna kind of leave them far back in a more neutral position so that you're actually biasing more of the biceps rather than the forearms. Now, the big thing you wanna avoid doing is having your shoulders come forward like this, which might be easier said than done, especially as you approach failure. If you tend to have that problem with your shoulders coming forward, I actually recommend you bring the cables up higher. It is surprisingly helpful. Now, if you don't have access to cables, the alternative can be a dumbbell skull crusher, superset using the same bench with a single arm preacher curl. Now, if you're unfamiliar with those exercises, I highly recommend you check the videos in the card above. Let's move on. And that was the best beginner upper body workout at Planet Fitness. Well, done with Planet Fitness equipment. Now, if you're thinking, hey, what about lower body? Well, I highly recommend you check out my best beginner lower body workout linked in the card right here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hit subscribe to level up your physique. Hit the bell notification, get these videos right to you. Good luck on your fitness journey. Super excited for y'all. Let's hit 2025 hard and get that dream physique. Peace.